Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Vintage Warlock channel. I hope you are all safe and well, and today we are going to be discussing not a singular watch review but actually a complication, and we're going to be looking at GMT complications in particular. Before we begin, if you do find value in the videos that I'm doing, please leave a like or subscribe to the channel as well. We're on the way to 1,000 subscribers, and as some of you may know, YouTube treats creators very differently once you hit 1,000. Quartz movement to entry level automatics all the way up to premium level. So what I've done for this list is I've not done an exhaustive list. I've just picked out 11 watches in particular that have spoken to me that I find really interesting. Now, just a disclaimer before we begin. Some of these watches I have experience with in terms of their three-hand versions. Some of these watches I don't have experience with at all. None of these watches I would have physically had on the wrist, and that's because I don't actually have a GMT in my collection. So what we're going to be going from today is not just the looks of the watch, but the specifications, and then my experiences of holding the three-hander counterparts on the wrist as well. So without any further ado, let's jump straight into this list, and the first watch I'm going to talk about today is by far and away the cheapest watch on this list. However, it is still a big budget brand, and that is the Timex. Now, there are two different GMTs that you can get from the Timex. Both are quartz complications. You've either got the Waterbury GMT or you've got the Timex Q reissue GMT. Now, the one that I'm going to talk about today in a little bit more detail is the Timex Q GMT, specifically because I've reviewed the three-hander version of that before. So according to the Timex website, if you can find these on the Timex website, the Timex Q is retailing from between £200 to £180, dependent on the version of the watch that you're getting. If you're getting the all-steel bracelet version, it's £200, £180 for a PVD stealth version with black. I have noticed online that they have the Batman bezel as well, which is harking back to the Rolex design of previous, and again that is I think it's discontinued now because it's not on the Timex website, but those prices have shot up to around £250. Still not completely out of the question, but it just puts it on the higher end of what you'd be paying for a watch like this. But this watch is 38mm in diameter. It has a lovely domed acrylic crystal. The bracelet in the original version was absolutely awful. The new bracelet is apparently much better. However, if you're still worried about the wearability of the bracelet, you can still go for the rubber strap on this one. The only thing that puts me off with the Timex Q at the moment is, first of all, it's out of stock on the Timex website. However, the only other thing that really puts me off with the Timex Q is that it's only got 50 meters of water resistance. Now, that's not a deal breaker for me because there is another watch on this list with 50 meters of water resistance, but it is not built to look like a stainless steel sports watch. For me, if it's a stainless steel sports watch, it really has to have 100 meters of water resistance or more. So for that, the Timex Q gets one thumbs down for me with the 50 meters of water resistance, but there are a lot of other factors on here that I could consider, and actually, you know, potentially I'd be very happy with wearing this one long term. However, there is another GMT on the Timex website, and it's the Waterbury version. This one is a little bigger with 39mm and has just a leather strap. However, it has 100 meters of water resistance, no acrylic crystal, it has a mineral glass, but it does have more of an original design. So I'm not going to go into it too much because it's not on the short list today, but it could be something that is worth picking up if you want something that's a little bit more functional. Yes, it's got the leather strap, but you can obviously change that out for a Zulu if you wanted to, but that comes in three colors. You've got a blue with a Pepsi style bezel, you've got a white face with again the same Pepsi style bezel with a gold sort of surround, and then you've got a black version black bezel, black face with stainless steel outer. But again, second option, this one is actually in stock on the Timex website. So if you want to look at a cheap quartz GMT movement and you want to get yourself something with a brand with provenance, potentially the Timex, the Waterbury could actually be the way to go. So moving on from Timex, we're actually going to have a look at a micro brand now, and it's another GMT quartz movement, and this is Boulder. Now again, I have reviewed a Boulder in the past. I reviewed the Boulder Odyssey, the large chunky funky 45mm stainless steel tank of a watch. So this one is quartz. They do have an automatic GMT in the Globetrotter. I'm not going to recommend that one. It doesn't really do anything for me, but this one is nice. It's small and it has a very field watch like aesthetic, which I quite like. This one is retailing for between £250 to £300 depending on the retailer and where you go for it. Boulder does offer a guarantee. I think it's a 2-year guarantee. The quartz movement on this one, I'm not sure if I mentioned the quartz movement on the Timex. I don't think I did. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I know on the Boulder it is a Ronda 515.24H, which is a Swiss GMT quartz movement. The lug to lug is pretty snug. It's 44mm. The watch diameter is again 38mm, just like the Timex Q. But one thing that separates this one from the Timex is actually the case material is made of titanium, which is a very good material to have at this price point. In fact, it's quite rare to find a watch with titanium at this price point, especially one that has a GMT movement as well. This one is water resistant to 200 meters, which is fantastic. Has a thickness of 14mm, and it doesn't have a stainless steel strap, but it does have a NATO slash sort of Zulu straps that you can choose from. I believe, looking at the website, it comes in white, green, blue, and I think there's a black version as well. Screw down crown aids with that 200 meters of water resistance, and this has also got sapphire crystal as well on the front, which makes it an incredibly compelling offer, especially with the price point. One thing about Boulder that I remember from owning one is that they take pride in a watch that is meant to be bashed around, that's meant to be given hell, for lack of a better phrase. And looking at this watch, it looks robust, it looks like it's going to last a while, and it looks like it's really made for the adventurer. So for the adventurer, I would choose the Boulder GMT if you're looking for a quartz movement. And in terms of my first choice, because that's the end of the quartz round, I would choose the Boulder as being the better of the two quartz offerings. So now, moving on from quartz GMTs, we're going to start looking at automatics. So this next category is the entry level automatic GMT movements. And what list of this wouldn't be complete without including the new darling on the block, the one that has broken the YouTube space in the last few months in terms of reviews? It is the Seiko 5, the Seiko SKX GMT. So the Seiko 5 GMT comes in 3 colours. You've got a pure black version with a black and grey bezel and a red GMT hand. You have a blue bezel with a black blue bezel with a red GMT hand, and then you've also got an orange version as well, which is slightly more let's say interesting compared to the other ones, and that has the GMT hand as well. I think that one's in black. I can't see the picture, but I'll put one up on screen. In terms of specifications, it has a 42mm diameter, 42.5mm diameter actually, 100 meters of water resistance, just like all other Seiko 5 sports watches do. It has a Jubilee bracelet. Now, one thing to add about the Jubilee bracelets, I've reviewed many Seikos, I've had many Seikos in my collection in the past, but this one has solid end links and solid links, which is pretty good considering the fact that this is a Seiko 5 and so usually corners are cut. No screw down crown, it is push pull, and there's no signing on the crown. The crystal is Seiko's proprietary hardlex, which you always get with Seiko 5 anyway. But this watch is interesting, and I think it has sort of changed the market in terms of what people can offer with GMT movements. So before, I think the best movement that you could get at a reasonable price was an ETA Swiss made GMT movement, or you had to go to some of the China led ones, and they have questionable quality at best. So having this one, an NH GMT movement on the marketplace, I think means that we're going to start seeing a lot of micro brands, maybe this year, maybe next year, start to pop up with GMT movements based on some Seiko movements. Finally, to look at the movement itself, it is the 4R34 or the NH34, and just like the ETA 2893, which you'll see on this list in just a moment, it isn't a true traveller's GMT watch like the Grand Seiko or the Rolex Master 2. I mean, come on, for that for the price that you're getting for this Seiko, you didn't expect it to be a true traveller's GMT, did you? But the second position of the crown doesn't allow 1 hour jumps at the local time, so you have to use that in a creative way in order to make the GMT work. But for the price point, I don't see how it could be a negative. Just some final bits on the movement here. I haven't mentioned this with some of the others, but I feel because this is a new one, it needs to just be highlighted. The caliber 4R35 or the NH34 runs on a frequency of 21,600 vibrations per hour and offers a 41-hour power reserve. Of course, it still hacks and it still hand winds. Now, the next watch on the list does have a large jump in price, let's say. So the Seiko 5 retails for around £400. The next watch retails for double that at £800 brand new, but you can easily find this secondhand for around the 400, 500 or 600 mark. And this is the Tissot GMT. I think it's Chemin du Tourelles. I have butchered the pronunciation there, and I apologise to no one. But the Tissot is a fantastic brand, lots of history. But this is the first Swiss GMT movement on here. Case width is 42mm. This is a little dressier as well. You can get this on a leather band or a steel band, but it's meant to be a dressy watch. 50 meters of water resistance, just like the Timex Q. Stainless steel construction throughout. Obviously this is automatic and has sapphire crystal as well, and Tissot obviously offer the 2-year guarantee. So along with the better quality of design, having the sapphire crystal to say the least compared to the Seiko, the ETA movement has a lot of other benefits too. So the main one being that this one has an 80-hour power reserve, which is almost again double what you would have got from the NH34, which is the GMT for the Seiko movement. Again, it's automatic, hand winding, hacks hand winds. It has a frequency of 21,600 beats per hour, so 3 hertz. And again, this just makes this watch, yes, it's more expensive, but it makes it a much better product in terms of the specifications. Next few watches sort of straddle the line between entry level and what I would call mid-tier. So I'm going to make an executive decision and draw the line underneath this one to say this is the end of the entry tier. And I'm not going just by retail price for this, I'm actually going through second-hand prices as well. So when you see a drop in the amounts of that it would cost. So the next watch I have on the list is a Certina, and a Certina is part of the Swatch group. It has exactly the same movement as the Tissot, but this one is the Satina Watch Action Diver GMT. So 2 real reasons why the Satina is ending up the entry point instead of being on the mid-tier, and that is from recommended retail price to AD price to eBay price. So this sort of entry level is all about the prices. I think that's how I'm categorizing this. So looking at this from an entry level standpoint, yes, the recommended retail price on their website is £880. In fact, if I'm looking on some of the other official retailers, they are sort of saying around the £885 mark, £890. However, the Satina Action DS with some of the authorized distributors in the UK have got them regularly under the £700 mark, and that's sort of at a discounted price. So it could be that the model's not as popular, or they have problems with shifting it, but I think that gives this an incredible value for money position. So it's part of the Swatch group, so it has exactly the same movement as Tissot, as mentioned before. This is a sapphire crystal 200 meter water resistance watch, 43 millimeter case diameter. I think it's going to wear quite flat. I haven't had this myself. Again, 2-year warranty that comes with it, as you would imagine, and you get a couple of different colors with this one. So I personally have seen the blue face with the blue red inner bezel, so it's an inner bezel, not an outer bezel. There is a black version, and I also think there's an orange version as well, so very similar to the Seiko 5 GMT line. So you've got a few different colorways that come with this one as well. Not all of them will be on sale, so just keep that in mind. So the one that I've seen that's immediately stands out as being on sale is the blue face with the blue red bezel, so sort of like a Pepsi style GMT. The next one you've got is a black face with a black and red bezel, so more of a root beer style. And then you've got some different sort of PVD versions as well, which look interesting to me. You've got a black face with an orange sort of faux patina markings and a black and orange bezel, and then you've got a green one, so more military style with green indices and a black green bezel as well, again PVD coated. So now we've come to the end of the entry level GMT watches on this list, and you know, I thought it would be quite clear from the beginning, but as I dove into it, it became a little harder to choose. But when you consider price as well as other specifications, I do think now there is one clear winner to this level, and this is the Satina GMT DS Action. I actually marked down originally as the Tissot being the best value for money, but actually, you know, looking at the specifications and looking at what you get for the money, it's the Satina. The GMT DS Action just absolutely blows the others out of the water. You can get it right now for under £700 in the UK with all of those specifications that I mentioned before, and a fantastic ETA movement. That's, you know, £200 to £300 slightly more than the Seiko, and actually £200 less than the Tissot. It's a bit of a no-brainer if you ask me. So now we move on to the mid-tier section. Now this one was very hard to categorize because some of these watches could easily argued have been in the entry level, and some of them at the top end you could almost say potentially could be premium, but I feel that the price points for these really justify it being in the mid tier, and this is based on not just AD prices but resale prices, and also if you can find them as well. So I think being able to find them also adds to whether you would consider it to be mid tier or entry level, because the harder it is to find, obviously the more expensive it's going to be, even at second hand. So the first watch on this list is a watch that I think objectively looks absolutely gorgeous. It is stainless steel construction throughout, it has a stainless steel bezel, and it's made from a brand that is a big name brand in France. It has bags of history, potentially not the best customer service, which is what has knocked it down slightly in my book in the past and has stopped me from getting it, but the watch itself is just gorgeous, and that's the Yema Superman GMT. So with the Yema Superman GMT, you can get this on a stainless steel bezel, which is my pick of the range, but you can get other style bezels as well, including like a Pepsi style and a root beer style too. Now, I've never had a Yema before, and I really do want to get one in to have a look at and to review, because they do look pretty good. So this watch retails, I've only got it in US dollars on here, but I believe it's going to be roughly similar no matter where you're at. So brand new, it's at just a little over 1,200 US dollars, so 1,249 US dollars. I'm guessing that's going to be around 1,100 euros, and sort of around the same in pounds as well as you're going down. Now this watch comes with 39mm size or a 41mm size, depending on your wrist and what suits you best. You've got two choices to make, which is good. This one has a GMT in-house caliber movement, which is the Yema 3000. This has a 42-hour power reserve, a sort of accuracy of plus to minus 10 seconds per day, and I don't really know much else about this movement. It's quite an interesting looking movement, but I don't know much else about it. High visibility dial, it's got the two-tone bezel, so I think that's very common with all GMTs nowadays, so you can track up to 3 time zones. Double dome sapphire crystal, so giving it a achingly beautiful vintage look as well, and you've got the bezel lock mechanism, which is what the Superman style was really sort of well known for. So a bit more about Yema themselves. First of all, let's have a look at this movement. So I've done a bit more research on it. It has the quick set date. It has a minus to plus 10 seconds a day accuracy, power reserve of 42-hour power reserve. And then in terms of the other benefits of buying from Yema themselves, is they give you a Yema travel case and a 2-year warranty, 40 days money return and free shipping, and 24/7 plus personalized customer service. Now I know that this can be quite a contentious issue, and I know that people have had problems with Yema's customer service in the past. However, I know that they are working to address some of those issues, and fingers crossed it will get better, because they do have some really lovely looking watches. So the next watch on this list is actually from a micro brand, or as you would probably call them, the king of micro brands really in the UK. It's Christopher Ward, and they have a few different GMT models, but the one that really stands out to me is almost their equivalent to the Explorer 2. It is the Christopher Ward Sealander. So the C63 Sealander GMT comes in a number of different colours. However, my pick of the bunch would be the green colour, that's slightly sort of sunburst and granuled up to black, with the orange indicator hour hand. It comes in 39mm automatic GMT, and it's brushed stainless steel throughout. It looks like an absolutely beautiful and fantastic tool watch. Christopher Ward offer some of the best covering guarantees as well. So they offer a 60/60 guarantee, so that's 60 days free returns worldwide and 60-month movement guarantee as well. The movement itself isn't an ETA, it is a Salita SW300 /2 GMT, and that's actually based on the ETA 2893 anyway. It's got 25 joules, it hacks, it hand winds, and it has a 56-hour power reserve, and the GMT hand can be set independently from the hour and second hands. So for me, this makes it a little bit more of a premium level watch than the others. Second hand, it seems to retail at around the £700, between £600 and £700 mark. If you look at it from Christopher Ward's website direct, you're looking at £970. One final thing to add with this watch as well is it's highly customizable on their website. So aside from having the colors which you can choose of, I think, green, white, black and blue, you've also got the option to choose a strap as well, which can toggle the price. So the £970 was the highest price that I could find with the brushed stainless steel bracelet, but they do have a black orange hybrid rubber bracelets. They've got leather, oak leather bracelets, and they've also got canvas webbing as well. All of which I'm led to believe are incredibly comfortable and incredibly endurable and well wearing. But if you wanted to go for the absolute top spec, you can also add engraving for £30. You should be paying no more than £1,000 for this watch, and to be honest, it looks like it could be well worth the money. So moving on from a micro brand back into the Swatch Group umbrella, and we're going to have a look at the last Swatch Group watch I've got on today's list, which is the Mido Ocean Star GMT. So this one is a little more pricier than its other counterparts, although it does have the same movement, which is the ETA movement with the 80-hour power reserve. 200 meters of water resistance again with this watch. I love the design of it. You know, I've got the three-hander version of this watch. I've got the two-tone, which would actually be my pick of choices for the GMT watch as well, because the two-tone looks really good. It's got some retro feel to it, but you can get an all-black version, and you can also get a Pepsi style version and a blue version as well. So there are a few different versions of this watch that you can get, all retailing at around that same price, so the £1,100 to £1,200. In terms of its resale value, I've seen it online for around £700 to £900, so it seems to keep a little more of its price than the others. However, Medo doesn't sell particularly well in the UK, so it is very difficult to get your hands on, which is probably why the price has gone up a little more. So this is part of the Ocean Star collection. So as I mentioned before, it's got 20 bar or 200 meters of water resistance with a screw down crown. It has a 2-year warranty. It's sapphire, double reflected, anti reflective treatment on the crystal. The width, this one is 44mm in width. Now my watch that I have at the minute, the three hand is actually 42mm, so it is slightly bigger there. One thing I know is that this watch, although it's very thin for what it is, so it's only 13mm thick, it does sort of sit a little slab sided because it has a longer sort of lug to lug width. The lugs there are 22mm as well. Just to address and correct what I said there, so the £1,110 is the most expensive that you'll pay for this watch. The rest of it sort of slides down in scale. The blue version on the canvas strap is the cheapest at £960. One step up from that at £990 is the all black version. So probably the two most popular colours, which aren't the two-tone, would probably be the cheapest of all. So finally, to round up our list of mid-tier watches, I'm going to go with the Baltic Aquascape GMT. Now this is a smaller brand that I've been following for a while. I really like its designs, and I really like the fact that you can either get the rubber strap, which looks pretty comfortable to all things considered, and then this sort of beads of rice engineer style bracelet that you can get on them as well. Baltic are pretty well known for their retro designs and making their watches look interesting and unique at the same time, as well as being able to hark back to some of the classic designs of old. This watch typically retails for between £700 to £900 brand new. I have seen a few that have kept that price second hand, and I've seen a few that have sort of dipped underneath that around the £500 to £600 mark. Again, you'd have to check eBay for that just to see what would suit you best. This comes in 3 different colorways, so all dials are black, but the bezels can change, so you can get like a blue and sort of like a turquoisey greenish sort of bezel. You've got a blue and an orange bezel, and then you've got the darker version, which I haven't seen secondhand anywhere, which is like a blue and a grey. With the Baltic, I'm a big fan of the symmetry of it, with the date window at 6 o'clock, meaning that everything else sort of stays very symmetrical on the dial. I think that's a great touch. I also like how the GMT Traveler's Hand is sort of colour matched to the various different bezels that you've got. So you've got like the greeny blue sort of turquoise bezel on one of them, you've got the blue line on the other, and then you've got an orange as well on the third. It also has an interesting movement as well, so I don't know much about this movement, so this is something that I'd love to explore in a bit more detail. But it says on the website that it's a Swiss Soprod movement, reliable and functionable, and it looks like this movement itself is called the C125. It's self-winding movement, so obviously it hacks, it hand winds, has a 42-hour power reserve, a date and a GMT function, and it's supposed to be very robust and reliable. I don't know that for sure, but that's what it says on the website, so that's what I'm going to look at as a starting point. So that rounds up the tier of mid-level watches, and this one is actually quite hard to call because there are some incredibly good watches with that. You know, with the Yema, you've got the in-house caliber movement, you've got the really nice retro design, and I'm a big fan of the stainless steel bezel. With the Sealander, it's obviously in homage to some of the older Rolex styles, and it looks really good and works really well. It has its own twist on it. The Mido comes from the big Swatch group, and it has, you know, its own benefits there. And the Aquascape by Baltic is really interesting as a watch itself. It has this beautiful sort of double domed sapphire crystal and has beautiful sort of markings throughout, but I just don't know too much about the movement. So this one is a very hard choice to make, but I think the best value for your money or my money in this area would probably be the Christopher Ward Sealander GMT. Now that is very, very close, because there's so many different benefits with these other watches, and I don't think you can go far wrong with any of them. But for me on this list at the moment, the CW Sealander GMT was or is on paper probably the better of all the watches that are available. So now we come to the premium tier list. So these watches are obviously much more expensive than the mid tier, but the added bonus is that most of them have a true Traveller's GMT. I'm going to start off this premium tier by looking at a watch brand that you probably wouldn't have thought would have made the list. It's a Tag Heuer. It's a Tag Heuer Carrera GMT. So I think to give it its proper name, it is the Tag Heuer Carrera Twin Time. It's a 41 millimeter diameter. It retails for around $3,500. I think that's sort of looking at the £3,000 mark in the UK, but it comes in a number of different colorways. You've got a blue colorway with a blue white inner bezel or sort of chapter ring. You've got a black version which looks quite smart. You've also got some gold, some sort of like two-tone versions as well of this watch, and a silver sort of white version. I've struggled to find some more examples of this online, which is why I struggled to sort of put it in until the very end, but I'm a big fan of, I guess, the simplicity of it. It's not big, it's not showy, it's just a simple watch that has some very interesting features with it. So it's powered by the Tag Heuer, I think it's the Tag Heuer Caliber 7 GMT or something around those lines. Again, I don't know too much about how this watch is sort of laid out. Made famous recently as by brand ambassador Ryan Gosling in his new film The Grey Man, which is actually not too bad. It's out on Netflix at the moment. But in terms of the specifications, it has a 41mm case, has a 12.13mm thickness, so quite thin, a lug's distance of just under 22mm lug. I think it's actually 21, so it's a bit of a pain in the arse there. So whatever you buy it on is what you'll be keeping it on most likely. But it does have 100 meters of water resistance as well, sapphire crystal, all the other stuff that you would expect from a watch of this caliber. So I was wrong before. It's not the Caliber 7, it's the Caliber 5 automatic movement on the website. However, I think they've mixed both the GMT and the three-hand movement together. It's not entirely clear, if I'm honest with you, on their website, but it does look interesting, and it's something that potentially is worth considering, even if I'm not the biggest fan of Tag, and I haven't really done too much sort of investigating into them into the past. Not because I hate them, but just because it's I've never really been inspired by their looks. Now, remember earlier when I said that the Mido was the last Swatch Group watch on this list? Well, I lied. There was another one that I'd put on there, and I'd completely forgotten that it was part of the Swatch Group just because of how deep I had dived into this list. But this is another GMT from the Swatch Group, and I think Swatch Group sort of cover almost every single level from entry through to premium. This is a Longines, so it's the Longines Spirit Zulu Time, pioneering time zones 42mm to give it its full name. This watch in the UK retails for about £2,500, so £2,500. I think it's very similar in the US as well, potentially maybe even £3,000. But this is a really nice and interesting looking watch. It looks sort of dive style, but it actually harks back to the aviation and the history with aviation that Longines sort of have. I'm looking particularly at the Zulu Time with the green, sort of dark green bezel and the gilt tones throughout with the black face. It's also a chronometer certified watch. It's got the date at 6 o'clock, so that's all absolutely fantastic. The watch itself is 42mm in diameter. It actually says on the website that the dial colour is grey, but it looks black to me, so maybe it's a little different from the pictures than it is in real life. Water resistant to 100 metres, Arabics all across the side, and this is, again, it's an ETA movement, but I think it's actually a slightly different ETA movement, and of course it is COSC certified as well. Now, obviously, one of the biggest plus points at a watch at this price is the fact that you've been able to get something that's COSC certified. The movement itself is different from the other ETA movements. I'm not sure if it's a true Travelers GMT. I will have a look and see if it is and leave it in the comments below. But it is automatic, 21 joules, 25,200 vibrations per hour. This one has a 72-hour power reserve, so slightly less than the 80 hours of power reserve. But if you're looking at a true Travelers GMT, which I suspect it is, this, then actually, you know, I think this is a really good deal, especially for the price and for what you're getting, and the design of it is absolutely incredible. Other specifications aside from the 42mm, which I'd mentioned before, is that it has a thickness of 13.90mm. So again, it's not particularly thick. It does have some thickness, but it's not that bad. Although it's got 10 bar water resistant, it is a screw-in crown, so for me, I would have absolutely no problems getting this wet. And as you would expect at this price, you have a stainless steel construction throughout, a ceramic bezel, and sapphire crystal with several layers of anti-reflective coating on both sides as well. The blue version looks quite nice as well, but I think for me the black grey gilt with a green bezel is really the one for me. Now here we come to the ultimate watch on this list, and the last watch to come on to this list. So there were a few different options and choices I had. As I mentioned before, you know, there were the likes of Breitling, there was even Rolex, or there were even some other models of Omega that have GMTs, but I really wanted to look at price and look at, you know, sort of true value for money and also availability. And the watch that I've sort of come to in the end is Rolex's little brother Tudor, and the one I'm talking about in specific is the original Tudor Black Bay GMT. So not the root beer, not the Pro that's come out now, but I'm looking at the original Pepsi style GMT version of the Tudor, of the Tudor Black Bay. So first of all, with the GMT for Tudor, let's have a look at price. So in the UK, I can see brand new examples of this retailing at around the £3,000 to £4,000 mark. 3 is particularly low, so I think you're looking at the £4,000 to £5,000 mark for a brand new version of this. However, one of the reasons why I've looked at this being on the list is because of the second-hand price of this watch. Now, I'm not sure why, but the market has become a little bit saturated with Tudor GMTs coming on, you know, sort of second-hand, especially in the UK. So I've seen regular examples of this sort of looking at between the £2,000 to £3,000 mark. So I'll repeat that again, the £2,000 to £3,000 mark. And bearing in mind that I have the three-hand version of this, which is 41mm. I've got the original 41mm heritage version with the in-house caliber movement, which is around the same size, so I can speak to how it wears, and it wears nicely for me. But that is an incredible price. You know, you're looking at £2,500 as an average on the second-hand market for a Tudor watch that is COSC certified. It's automatic. It's obviously stainless steel construction with its sapphire crystals and the numerals, and 200 meters of water resistance or 20 atmospheres. I think that's an incredible price, and I think it does offer real value for money, especially if you're able to grab it secondhand for those prices. In the UK, I mean, I'm having a look now at some of the websites. Goldsmiths is one of the ADs in the UK, £3,300 brand new, although it is out of stock at the moment. However, you can just see, you know, the value that comes from it. You know, 70-hour power reserve, in-house Tudex/Rolex caliber movement, 41mm in diameter, and a Tudor 5-year transferable guarantee as well. So all of this in that watch as well offers incredible value for money. We all know the style, we all know how it looks, and we all know that it sort of apes back to the original Rolex version of this, which was the original Pepsi GMT, which was funnily enough made for air travel, not because of the brand Pepsi. We've just given it that nickname, but it just has some incredible specifications, and it's obviously a watch with a lot of history. It's connected to one of the biggest brands in the world, so there's not really much more that you can say about it other than Tudor watches offer incredible, and it's readily available because it's Longines and it's part of the Swatch group. I would definitely pick that one up, especially if you're able to get it at a slightly discounted price as well. If you smile sweetly at your AD, maybe you can get a few £100s off that one. Second hand, I'm not sure how much this is going to retail for. I would imagine that you'll probably get it for £1,500 if you were to search hard enough for it. But again, I don't see too many of these examples online, which indicates to me that most people are keeping a hold of it. However, I'm going to tie it with the Tudor Black Bay GMT. And the reason for that is because the second-hand prices for the Tudor GMT is insane. Also, it's got a transferable 5-year guarantee, and it is COSC certified just like the Longines. Again, the caveat with that is if you can find it for a decent price. So if you're looking at official retailers and you're looking online, the Longines and Tudor are very similar in terms of price, but if you can find a second-hand one for a bit lower, for a bit less, that sort of equals the Longines price, I would snap up the Tudor. So it's very hard to decide. I'm going to declare it a dead heat. The one thing that would give me an edge for Tudor is that I have the 3-hand version. I know exactly how that wears and how this Tudor GMT would wear as a result. So that brings us to the very end of the list. I've gone through all of these watches in a bit of detail. I've found some duds, I've taken them out, and I've also found some really good value for money nuggets along the way. Now, as I said to you before, this list is definitely not exhaustive, and there are lots of other GMTs out there, and I encourage you to really look at the market to see what movements are inside and what sort of speaks to you. I've not mentioned any Omega watches, I've not mentioned any Faro watches, I've not mentioned any other brands apart from the ones on this list, and these are the ones that I've identified as being good for me that have incredible value for money. So what I'm going to do now is make a couple of overall decisions as to which ones are the best. So first of all, I'm going to say that the best second-hand value for money watch that you could probably find today, as you can guess, is going to be the Tudor GMT 41mm. If you can find this watch for between £2,000 to £2,500, I think you're onto a winner, and I would snap it up, keep that watch, because it's got the not just the Tudor logo, but it's got the in-house movement. It's completely reliable, it's iconic, and you can get that watch for an incredible price. I think that is an absolute bargain if you can find it at that price. However, the watch today that I'm going to say has the best overall value for money, and this is a very tight one, and I think some people will agree with me, some will disagree, but I think overall, for value for money, for what you're getting, I think the best watch on this list today is the Christopher Ward Sealander GMT. I think it offers incredible value for money. It's incredibly good in terms of movement. It has an incredible offer and guarantee. The customer service appears to be excellent with them, and you can highly customize this watch to suit you for long term and longevity. There are some really positive reviews on the Christopher Ward Sealander. I encourage you to look around YouTube and look at some of the other people who have reviewed Sealanders and have reviewed Christopher Wards in general. They do offer incredible value for money. So overall, I'm going to say the best value for money that you can find today is going to be the Christopher Ward Sealander GMT. The best second-hand value for money watch that you can find is going to be the Tudor Black Bay GMT. So that was my list. That is all the watches on my list today. What did you think of the watches? Do you agree with my list? Do you agree with the decisions that I've made, or do you disagree? Do you have some other watches that you think are incredible value for money that I've missed out? Please leave them in the comments below. If you found value in this video and you want to see more, click on like, click on subscribe, and more videos will be coming out very shortly on this. But guys, thank you so much for your time today. It's been incredible to go through this list with you and to decide on GMTs that I should be getting next. If you want to see more of this sort of content, I've got my Instagram links below. Please click on that and follow me on Instagram, and I'll see you guys in the future video.